Hi, I'm Nick Ruddle and welcome to the Profit Club Basics. We're going to go through the 5 ways chart with an example of how it actually works. Now, if you're new to the 5 ways chart, then let's take a look at it quickly. But you can watch one of the other videos or yesterday's video for an explanation on this one. But simply put, it's leads. Prospects into your business multiplied by the conversion rate equals the total number of customers in your business. Okay, multiply that by the number of transactions, then multiply that by the average value sale, gives you your revenues or sales. Okay, multiplied by the margins gives you profit. Now you'll notice it's called the 5 ways, but why do we call it the 5 ways? Well, simply put, customers, revenue and profits, these are in red on your page. Why? Why is that? They're highlighted in red because they're the outcomes. There's an equal sign in front of each of them. They're the least important numbers on the page. The most important numbers are the predictors, the ones that are going to give us those numbers, the 5 areas, the leads, conversion rates, average number of transactions, average sale and margins. Those 5 areas are the most important. So in this example, let's run through them. I'm going to give you a little business here, and let's pretend that you had 4,000 leads or prospective customers last year. So here they were. These are your prospective buyers. They might have come into your shop, your store, your office, called your business, emailed you, responded to a campaign of some sort. You might have knocked on their doors. However it works that you got that prospective customer into your business. Out of that, we're going to pretend that you sold to 1 in 4. Now, 1 in 4 is about average when I look at conversion rates out there. I know a lot of business people think their conversion rate is higher than that, but again, it's so vitally important that you actually measure all these numbers for your business. So it's important that you know how many prospects did get through the doors today, how many people called your business this week. Then you've got to know how many of them did we actually make a sale from. That gives you your number of customers, which again, you want to know that number. Then we're going to work on how often they come back. Now this one's a bit harder to work out in most companies because we're looking for the average number here. I know most people think, oh, a lot of our business is repeat business, but when we get down to measuring it, then we're going to start to find out the results. In this little business, let's pretend that of those 1,000 customers that you had, which was the 4,000 prospects, 25% of those you purchased, out of those 1,000 customers, let's pretend they came back on average twice a year. Okay, so you've got a total of 2,000 transactions, if that makes sense. So we're going to give it an average sale of about £100, dollars, euros, wherever you're from. So 100 per person. Every time they came and they spent on average 100. So of course, what that gives us now is a simple revenue of 200,000. So as your little business, 200,000 in revenue, which is 2,000 transactions at £100 or dollars a piece. Then we're going to go and work your margins because revenues are good, but more importantly is the profitability. So we're going to give you a 25% margin for the ease of maths and ease of calculation. That gives us a total of 50,000 in the take-home profit for this little business. Now, when we work with you as a coach and a client, when you go to work on this stuff, I don't want you to, thinking about, okay, well, I've got to double every one of these areas, these numbers. I've got to triple them. I've got to increase them by 1,000%. No. We don't need massive increases. We just need to what we need to do is just have real sort of steady increases. We need to make small incremental increases, step by step. And when you add them all up or multiply them out, it becomes a massive increase to the bottom line profit. So let me show you what I mean. We're going to work each area by improving it by roughly 10%, okay, about 10% in each area. So for example, if we work on the number of leads, to give you an example, I worked with a baker once, and he was spending about 300 quid an advert and had no idea of what results he was getting from this advert, which is not really unusual. Most people that run advertising still have no idea whether it's working or not. We'll teach you that in a little while, but this bloke was getting on average about 3 people a week from his advert when we tested it. When we started asking people, by the way, how did you find out about us, we found out that there's about three a week. So we needed to change that ad. We needed to change it quick. So we did a whole bunch of different things, and then we increased it to 587 people in the first week. Now, if you think about that for a minute, that's a slight increase. That's a little bit more than the 10% we're after for you. But imagine that if you've got to work with, I don't know, let's say you work with me, and from all the 5 ways strategies documents, or the document that you'll find in the resources section, there's so many different strategies, about 70 odd different strategies. If you learn a lot of those and you improved your leads, could you get a 10% better lead flow next year, over the from what you had last year? Of course you could. So in this case, we're going to go from 4,000 to just 4,400. Okay, so that's just 10%. Then what we're going to do is we're actually going to go and work on our conversion rates. So working conversion rates, we're going to aim to get about 10% increase. Now, this one here in most cases is just doing the measurement that will increase it by 10%. And why? Well, because there's focus on it. But what if we had to train you? Might have to train you and your sales team. What if you had some scripts in place to help sales conversions? What if we had to improve the brochures and letters and things that worked with you? What if we added any one of the 87 strategies to improve your conversion rates? Again, do you think it would be possible to add another 10% on your conversion rate this year over last year? So if in this case we got not, I know, 10% more, 10% better, so not 25% to 35%, it's just 25 to 27.5. That's only a 2.5% increase, more. Now that's all we're after. Now we've already done the maths here for you, so that gives us 1,210 customers, so another 210 customers over the space of that year. Then we're going to do we're going to work the number of transactions, the repeat business that you get. We're going to do a whole bunch of different strategies to get your customers coming back more often. If you're like most businesses, all you're going to need to do to get more transactions is actually just keep a database and invite your customers back. It's probably one of the most important things we can do, but then again, we've got another 70 other strategies that you can work on to get even more. So read the books, Instant Cash Flow by Brad Sugars. Go to my workshops when we do them throughout the year. Do whatever you need to do to learn these. Get them into play for your business. So again, 10%. On 2 is not a great deal more, just goes to 2.2, and we're not trying to double these numbers, are we? We're just trying to have small incremental increases in each one of these areas. Then we're going to work on your average value sale. Of course, average value sale, we've got different things, loads of different things we can do here, from sales training through to add-on selling, right through to increasing prices in different areas. So, there's many different things that we can work on to improve the average value sale every single time. Again, just measuring it in most cases will improve it because there's a focus on it all of a sudden. So, what we're going to achieve now, we've increased it from, let's say, 100 to 110 pounds, and we've increased revenues by 10%, haven't we? If you add all these things together, haven't we increased revenue by 10%? No, of course not. No, what we've done is increase revenues to 292,820. Now, what's that? Well, that's a 46% increase in your revenue, or this company's revenues. It is. Do the maths, work it out. We're multiplying here. We're not adding. Then, of course, we're going to go and work on your margins. Now, any good accountant will tell you if your revenues are up 46%, margins are probably going to be up already. But let's imagine that we had to use any one of the 50-odd strategies to do that. So let's say we go from 25 to 27.5% again for margins. So what does that give us in bottom line profits, I hear you shout? Goes up to 80,525 and 50 pence or cents. So when you look at this number, let's go over it very simply. That's a 46% increase in revenues and a 61% bottom line increase. I'm not sure there's too many businesses that would argue with a 61% bottom line increase. Now, here's a simple question. Imagine if we did this, instead of getting 10% in all areas, but we got in some areas 12, and some at 15, some at 20, or even other areas where we did 40 or 50%. What's the bottom line improvement then? In fact, if you doubled each of these areas over a period of number of years, say 5 or 7 years, in this little business, if you doubled these figures, so you went from 4,000 leads initially, you doubled that over a period of years because you're more popular, everyone knows where you are, and you're very everyone knows you. You go from 4,000 to 8,000. You go from people coming back twice a year to 4 times a year on average, and so on, and 25 to 50, and ultimately what you do is it takes that 200,000 turnover to 3.2 million in total revenues. Yeah, I know it sounds a bit mad, but listen, working with a coach is all about this. Work with a coach. For a year you do 10%. Second year you do another 10% on the 10%. The third year you do another 10% on the 10%. That's the aim of the game. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Hopefully, by using the 5 ways, know your numbers, measure your numbers, and then work on improving these numbers. And remember, build the business. Don't just work in the business. Grow it. Use the 5 ways to do that. And you'll get real leverage and start multiplying your profits. I'm Nick Ruddle, and these are the Profit Club Basics.